Hi guys, Ray here, City Fan TV, and I'm joined by the bald beauty himself, Bernard Dineen. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, Bernard's bald beautiness. I think that's what we're going for. Yes, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good, mate. Yeah, I'm enjoying the break. Although obviously I don't have a break. What I do, I'm doing just to let you know, I'm doing something on who was it? Who was it? Alan Ogley. Alan, yeah, there's an old guy. Alan Ogley. I'm working on at the moment, keeping City safe.
Ugly.
Ogley. He played a couple of games in the 67-68 season, so he didn't get a medal, unfortunately, for playing 2 matches. But yeah, he was a bit of a hero at Stockport County. He became after us.
All right, fair dues. Guys, we're here to talk about KdB. It's a twofold little video here. First, we're going to look at what might happen to KdB after his comments about Saudi Arabia. And secondly, we're going to look at, And secondly, we're going to have a chat to see how highly we regard KdB, because I'm sure we spoke last season about where he ranks as, one of the top all-time top City players. And, does he compare to David Silva? And we were talking about he needs a little bit more. Even though he didn't feature too much last season, he's still got another 10 assists, a few goals. So he's creeping up. So we'll talk about that second. But first of all, KdB made these comments and said, basically said, it's a lot of money going to Saudi Arabia probably go there for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. So the thing is, KdB's got 1 year left on his contract, if I remember correctly. So it's possible that he leaves the same time as Pep, if Pep leaves next summer. And that kind of rounded everything up. Now, if he went to Saudi now, Saudi would pay as whatever club would pay as a fee. It might not be huge because he's got 1 year left on his contract and he is something like 33 years old. But they might pay us that, for argument's sake, 30 million quid. But if he stays at City another year, they'll give him a huge signing on bonus, I think, and it could be in the region of 30 million quid. Now, if he went now, they might give him 10 million quid. I'm just plucking numbers out of the air. Because they don't have to pay the transfer fee, they might give him a lot of that as an incentive to sign. But I've said before, if KdB's on apparently 350 a week at City, which is about 17.5 million a year. So I look at it and say, if he stayed for another 2 years at City, he earns about 35 million quid, but he loses half of that in tax. So he's got about 16, 17, 18 million quid. If he goes to Saudi and they pay him 25 million a year for 2 years, he's earned 50 million quid. And there's no tax. Add your signing on bonus, I think he could walk away with about 70 or 80 million quid in 2 years, which is a ridiculous amount of money. Not saying that getting 16 or 17, 18 million quid for 2 years at City is a small amount of money, but even if round it up to 20, you compare 20 with 60 or 70, 80 million over 2 years, it's ridiculous. And I can see he's a wealthy man already, very, very wealthy. But this takes you to a totally different stratosphere. He could earn in 2 years what he would earn in maybe the last 6 years at City.
What's just a slight change of subject? But what's the longevity of this Saudi Arabia thing? Is it got Is it a
it's still
flash?
going.
It'll be 2 or 3 years down the line. It'll just be gone, or
I think it's
are they hoping to dominate world football by buying all the best players?
China tried it and it didn't work. But look what Saudi are doing across so many sports. They did it. They've actually got boxing together. They're making fights that people were putting off because they're offering such ridiculous amounts of money that the fights are happening. They're trying to get snooker over there. They're trying to get the World Cup in 2034. They're the only bidder so far for that. So they're pumping their money into sport left, right, and centre. I reckon they should have some sport for bald men who are in the 50s and 60s, and pay us copious amounts of money. But so I don't think they're going away. It's part of their project. You can call it sports washing, you can call it whatever you want, but they're heavily investing into sport. I don't think it's going anywhere. So I think, some of the players might look at it and say, look, if I wait like China, I missed the boat. Because, that China was a flash in the pan. I don't think Saudi's a flash in the pan. And I think KdB can go and earn a huge amount of money. And would you blame him? Would you blame him if you said, I'm leaving City to go and earn a huge amount of money in Saudi?
Not now. Not with what he's done, and now it's gone. I think I wouldn't blame a few of them, to be honest with you, at this point in their careers. I think, it is very hard, motivation, etc. And obviously the club doesn't, but deep down the club doesn't mean as much to them as it does to us, does it? Let's be honest about it. Of course, it's nice to think that they have a lot of love for the place, but I wouldn't deny any of the guys who've been there, 4, 5, 6 years, seasons now with Pep, the right to go, and it wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think from City's point of view, they wouldn't want him to leave this summer, because if you look at last summer, we lost, off the top of my head, 3 senior players, 1 crucial player, that was Ilkay Gundogan. We lost Mahrez, and we lost Aymeric Laporte. Now, Aymeric Laporte only played, I think he started 11 or 12 league games last season, partly because someone else was injured a lot. So was it Stonesy at the start of the season? I can't remember now. Stonesy's always injured. And even though Mahrez didn't start many games in the second half of the season, still an important player. We lost 3 senior players, and one, as I said, 1 crucial integral player, and that was Gundogan. I don't think Pep would want to lose another senior player who's integral to City, because City were better with KdB at the end of the season than they were without him. I think there's no doubt about that. And if Bernardo's going to leave, you cannot let Bernardo and KdB go in the same summer. But the issue is going to be, if KdB turns around and says, I want to leave, City won't stop him. But what's your feeling? Do you think he's going to stick around for another season?
I don't get any, apart from these news that I've not got a vibe that he was going to go before all the season ended. I didn't get that vibe at all. I mean, even if we'd done the double, I didn't get the feeling, looking at his body language and with his wife and his kids, how happy he is. I'll be extremely surprised. I just don't expect it at the moment. But as I say, it's there's little rumours, but I don't think, certainly not while Pep's there for another year. If Pep's going, then perhaps KdB would go. Perhaps they'll drop it on us in July, at the end of July, that Pep's not staying for the extra year. By mutual agreement, they've agreed to part our ways, and he's taking Kevin with him. Unless Pep goes, I can't see Kevin going.
You pushed me down a different alleyway to that I was going. How would you take it if Pep left and KdB left and Bernardo left?
Well, we'll still be there, mate, won't we? It doesn't matter, does it? I'll be gutted. Yeah. But hey, it doesn't matter, does it? These things. I'd prepare myself for a quiet season. I'll try and not get too stressed out about things, because it'd be a very difficult season and everyone will be cock a hoop. But if something else happened as well, as in other things away from football went bottoms up, I won't say the other word up, but I'd be destroyed. But we'll still be there, won't we, mate? We'll still be there. Yeah. So off-end park as we reform the club,
Brings me to my second point. KdB, where do you rank him in the pantheon? And there is a pantheon of City greats. Where do you reckon KdB lies? Have you got any stats at your fingertips?
Not really, mate. I think with KdB, I think he could have been better. That's what I'm going to say on KdB. And I find that very hard to say. But I just think, again, certainly the last couple of years, he's been carrying injuries and things, hasn't he, I think. So that's his problem. There was a spate with KdB where he looked as though he was trying to cover every blade of grass. I can't remember. Was it this season or last season? I don't know when it was, but
doing too much.
Oh, he looks really up for this. And then for me, his contribution this season after coming back from that bad, obviously his hamstring injury, he's played within himself. I think. I don't think he's done that, and it seems to me as though he's sort of winding down a little bit now. But yeah, I mean, is he a mosaic or is he a statue? I tell you what, mate. My thoughts are still a bit in between you on that. You could probably convince me by telling me all the good things he's done and all the big games he's won for us. I can only think of the big games he hasn't won for us. Being Mr. Negative here, and there have been a few where he's not letting us down. He's just.
But I think he's a Mr. Consistent. He's played 9 seasons.
City is a team, and nothing, as you said, far better with Kevin. And he's not always done it. It's not, but I don't know. I wouldn't automatically put to a statue. Put it that. I won't be banging the drum straight away to get a statue. But
okay,
5 years down the line, I might think different. But at this point in time,
I thought the way we talked in the past that he'd be knocking on the door. He's 9 seasons he's played at City. This season, he featured 18-10 in the league, got 4 goals and I think 10 assists, which is pretty decent. I'm looking through his records. There's very few seasons that he's basically played all the games. There's been 3 high appearance seasons. So let's have a quick look. His first season, he's played 25 in the first season, scored 7 goals. Then he played 36, scored 6. Then he played 37, scored 8. That was in the Centurion.
It's not about his goal scoring, mate. Was it really? It's about what he's produced.
But I'm just looking through the games that he's played. So then he had that. I remember that season where he had about 2 or 3 months off. He only played 19 games that season. Then he played a season with 35 games. He scored 13 goals, which is pretty good. Then 25 games, 30 games, 32. This season, obviously, the injury. He's 30, as we said, 33 years old. Or 32, sorry. He's going to be 33 this month. So
I think it's longevity, as you say. I mean, you convinced me a little bit because you're talking. I mean, I'm thinking people like Yaya Toure, but as far as how long they've been with us, he obviously could pull it out in certain games for 2 or 3 seasons. But Kevin's been with us, what you say, 9 years. So yeah, I mean, you convinced me on the basis of how long he's been with us. I might be make a little bit of a mould for the old statue for Kevin. Look, I tell you what, we've been so blessed, mate. That's the trouble now. It's becoming. We got so blessed with certain players. You're thinking, like Gun, even Gundo. Obviously, I think we said at the time, he's a mosaic perhaps, and pushing the statue, but he'll definitely get a mosaic. So we're so blessed with some great players that it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard to
look. David Silva, legend, no question about that. Sergio Aguero, for that moment, legend. For the rest of his career, he would have been a mosaic, according to you, I reckon. If he wasn't for that goal, he'd be. No, I think he'd have been a mosaic. Yaya Toure, he's a mosaic. Company, different class. I think Gundogan is a legend as well. That's my opinion about Gundogan, because not only did he play a lot of games for City, but I'm digressing by talking about him, but we don't talk about the number of times that that Villa game, that was Gundogan's game. Really, he scored 2 goals to get us the league title. So, for instance, Gundogan played 2, 4, 6, 7 seasons at City, 188 games, 44 goals. KdB's played about 70 games more than Gundogan. So I think takes him to a higher level. But I think Gundogan's a legend for what he's done. I think KdB's a legend. And if you're giving you're right, it's difficult. If you're giving statues out, you'd be giving loads of statues out, because Foden would get a statue. We know that's going to happen because what he's done. Rodri would get a statue because he's crucial. Edison, if he left now, would you get a statue or a mosaic?
Mosaic.
Wow. You're a hard man to please, aren't you? So I actually thought...
I mean, I'd have a statue for Zabaleta, but I mean, that's just... It's not particularly for what he is. It's just for the person.
So you kind of put a spoke in my wheel there, because I thought we'd be discussing whether KdB is on a level with David Silva or just behind or just ahead. But from what you're thinking is he's well behind.
Yeah, well, still, I mean, obviously, I go back to the likes of Colin Bell, and people have compared KdB to Colin Bell. But overall, now things seem to be winding down with Kevin. I would definitely plump for Colin Bell still as my all-time favourite.
Let's because there will be a few younger people watching this video. Let's look at the modern era, right? Because Colin Bell finished in the late 70s, didn't it? Was it 78, 79?
Well, I'll tell you what, who do you compare KdB with other players have done that sort of, you're talking the Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Uniteds. Don't go back to Liverpool, that's too long ago. For those clubs that have won things over the last 20 years, you're talking, how do you compare him to their... To me, he's far superior to virtually everyone I can think of that played for those teams.
For me, I mean, obviously we're a bit biased, but I agree, because I can't think of anybody at Arsenal who's a midfielder who compares with him. In terms of stats, Cesc Fabregas does. Fabregas got a lot of assists, but I just think KdB's better. I think he's better in a... I
mean, are you going back to players like Beckham to compare him to KdB with
let's go back to the Premier League era.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of Beckham and the way he could get that ball into places that other players couldn't, I mean, that's what KdB is quite capable of. And I can't think of anyone. You think of Frank Lampard, brilliant player, but totally different ballpark really to KdB. But a great player for his position.
The nearest you can get is probably Beckham because of his wonderful right foot, and Beckham was probably better at free kicks than KdB. But I think KdB is better at shooting than Beckham. So I think that's the only person that immediately springs to mind. I can't think of anybody at Arsenal that, Vieira was a different kind of player. Pires is a different kind of player. Can't think of anybody at Arsenal. And United probably the only one is Beckham. And since KdB hasn't slept with his brother's wife, I wouldn't include Giggs either. So...
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I'm getting towards the statue now. I needed to be convinced, and I'm thinking of other people and what they've done for the club. So I'm thinking
there's no one that compares. He's lasted longer than Yaya Toure. He's same as David Silva. I think one more season with Kevin. 10 years. 10 years is worth a lot, and he's going to have the best part of 300 appearances for City in the league. So I think he's already got a ton of appearances for City. Looking at his numbers, he's got 382 appearances. Now, obviously, there's a lot of players who've got more. Don't bring Alan Oakes with 682 or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, 6'8". Yeah, it was 6'8" and a 2 or 6'2" and an 8. So I wanted a combination. Yeah. You know what I noticed about KdB though? I've watched him for Belgium, and I've watched him the last couple of years. I've watched a few Belgium games just because he was playing. Basically, that's all I watch. Obviously, I've watched for other players now as well, but I think he's playing for City a bit like he played for Belgium, which is okay, but he's not as dynamic, or it was never as dynamic. But the trouble is with Belgium, he's been playing. Obviously, the last competition they were in, he was obviously injuries again, which has been the problem. But he seems to have with Belgium. I've not watched him yet. I'll watch him in the championships when they start. But he sort of has that sort of more laid back role, doesn't he? Where he's not as obvious. And I think that's how he's been I've played for City these last few games he's played, the last 10, 15 games. And I think role he's got, and because I don't think we can see the more dynamic Kevin now. I just don't think that's going to be there as much as it was.
Yeah, look, his age and everything else. He's on, he's not.
Well, they did say he'd come back and be a DM, didn't he? At some stage, he could be a DM.
Well,
That's obviously that's what they say about these quality midfield, but I can't see that happening.
No. For those who are watching who want to say something about Alan Oakes played 17 seasons for City, 3 in the second division, the rest in the first division. He had 584 league appearances for City, 680 appearances in total for City. If he'd been in the Champions League, if he'd been in Europe, he'd have got over 700. But hey, City weren't good enough. And the thing is, he played 17 seasons for City, and then he went to Chester in the third division, from the first division to the third division, and played 6 seasons for Chester. 211.
He wished he'd never gone.
Sorry?
He actually said he could have still done the job at City. Obviously, the manager wasn't convinced at the time, but he said it's his worst decision he ever made going to Chester, as in the level of football, not anything disregard to Chester. He just thought he could do another 2 or 3 seasons at City, and
I think. Well, the thing is, his last season at City he played 39 league games, so he did a job then. This season before he played 40. So then he went to Chester, played 45, 44, 37, 32. Then he starts dropping a bit, 28 and 28. But he's got a career of 778 league appearances, I believe. Absolute star. I mean, but so KdB is nowhere near him. But I think KdB one more season, he'll be around, over 400 appearances for City. I think that's got to be worth something. For me, it's difficult now because I love David Silva. I said he was the best, that I've consistently watched because I was a bit young for Colin Bell. I was around, but he got injured in, was it 76, 77? He got injured.
Yeah,
major injury.
Yeah, might have been. Yeah, because he played in the Wolves. He weren't playing the Wolves final in '74, so it was a '76 when we won the League Cup in '76 against Newcastle. That's when he was injured for that one, so he missed that one.
Yeah. So no, so even though
you mentioned David Silva there, I would personally say, if you asked me, KdB above David Silva or David Silva above KdB, I would say, this is putting more fuel on the fire that I was perhaps wrong to jump to the mosaic. I would say KdB.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a number of years he's been here, he has dragged us through seasons, especially under Pep. I think the Pep seasons have been the best for him. He's got to be a legend at City. He has to be. Come on. I don't care if we had, if when Pep leaves, we have a dozen legends and people say, oh, you can't have that many. They are legends. Look what they've done. He's won 6 Premier League titles in 7 seasons. So has Foden. So has Edison. So many other players won so many titles at City. That's legendary.
You would have a statue for Walker, though, mate.
No, I wouldn't.
You can't say one without, you can't say about winning 5 or 6 seasons and then not how long.
I think it's not. Look, West Brom won a ton of titles for United, and so did John O'Shea. You have them up there; they're decent, but you're right. You can't have them on longevity and the number of titles they won alone. But I just think he's so much bigger and so much better. And that for me is a legend. Has to be.
He is.
Guys,
definitely a legend. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Are you going for a statue for Kevin or a mosaic for Kevin? Do you think he's better than David Silva, as in what he's done for City? Or do you think
I'm going to go for a training pitch, a mosaic, and a statue? All 3 for Kev.
All 3. And I think one more season.
No, because I didn't want to think about it. I knew we were doing this tonight. I didn't want to think about Kevin because I wanted to be convinced. And obviously, as we've talked, I've convinced myself. So there you go.
I personally thought you'd be more convinced. I didn't think I need to convince you. I thought you'd be, we'd be arguing about which one's the better of the two. But I think another season of Kevin, get to 10 years. That's more than Aguero. That's more than Company. That's more than David Silva. Who else has done 10 years at City in the recent times? I can't think of anybody. Nobody. So, it's hard to do 10 years at a club now. Foden will, but it's hard for anybody to do it. So I think KdB's up there. But when he does leave, we will have that. Trust me, we will have that conversation. Who's the best, KdB or David Silva? And I think it'll be neck and neck.
I think my only thing with Kevin is because, as I said, certain big games, whether it's he's been injured or whatever, it's not quite. It's all right scoring 4 against, was it Wolves that year where he absolutely pulled them apart in that game where we scored 4 and assisted 1 or something stupid like that. But I'd love to have said that in, say, a key cup final or a key Champions League game. And obviously, you mentioned Gundo before against Villa. Of course, Kevin was a big part of that as well. Obviously, going on. So, that's the only thing with Kevin. I know he's not just bullied the small teams. Don't get me wrong, but I just think think back to the Chelsea. All right, he got done by that thug Rudiger in that game in the Champions League. But there's certain times when perhaps United, I wanted him to turn up against United in the FA Cup final, and he wasn't alone, but he just didn't turn up.
And he got dragged off an hour or so.
Yeah, it's probably not me love of him. Not that I love him, but it probably just tainted it a little bit for me. The last, and that's all. That's why I was a bit dubious at the start, I think. But if I could put that to one side, yes, absolutely.
Let's finish off by saying, guys, let us know who you think's the best, KdB or David Silva. Let us know in the comments. It'd be interesting to see what a few City fans say. Thanks a lot, Bernard. As always, pleasure chatting with you. You look after yourself, mate. Take care, and we'll see you around Blues.